The industry and regulators try to work around that and find out how to regulate in order to avoid financial crime, right? Like rules being put in place, and rules like the travel rule, right? And we've brought you an amazing person, Laura Holdebrandt from Coinbase, who leads a team actually fighting financial crime, and she has some thoughts to share with you around trust and around the travel rule problem. So please put your hands together. A round of applause to Laura on stage.
Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. Awesome. So my name is Laura Holdebrandt, and I am a compliance officer at Coinbase and one of the co-founders of Trust. Trust stands for the Travel Rule Universal Solution Technology. And I've had the privilege over the past 7 years of helping to design and build trust at Coinbase. So just out of curiosity, how many in this room are familiar with the travel rule? Okay, great. Good deal of the room. So just as background for those of you who are not as familiar, the travel rule is a set of regulations that has long applied to the fiat TradFi world, information that banks are required to share with one another when you are sending funds from one financial institution to another. So over the past several years, regulators have begun implementing travel rule requirements for crypto all around the world. Really, a lot of this began back in 2019 with the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, and then a number of different jurisdictions, including the US, Switzerland, Singapore, and many more starting to adopt travel rule requirements for crypto, along with VASP licensing requirements. And so really what we've set out to build with Trust is very similar to what the banks built with SWIFT back in the 1970s. So the banks built a coalition to essentially replace some of the very unreliable and manual systems that they used to use for international payments. Similarly, Trust, 50 years later, was formed by a coalition of VASPs, including Coinbase and many other leading exchanges, to really solve for how do we comply with the travel rule for crypto, which inherently is very different than bank wires and traditional fiat payments. So what we did is we came together and we built an industry-led solution. We really took the approach of how as an industry can we collectively solve this challenge, and how can we do so in a way that's really built by VASPs and for VASPs and prioritizes customer data security and data privacy. Because at the end of the day with travel rule compliance, because we are obligated to send our very sensitive customer information, their name, their physical address, out to exchanges all around the world, which are subject to very different licensing regimes, if at all, we really wanted to make sure that our very sensitive customer information was being protected, both in the actual transmission stage and then how it would be treated by that institution on the other side. So we've built Trust, and it's become one of the largest networks from a travel rule standpoint in all of crypto. We've taken an industry-led perspective here. Although I work for Coinbase, this is really a coalition of VASPs that came together to take an industry-led, not-for-profit approach. So we've taken a very different perspective than some of the vendors in this space. We felt like as an industry, we know our needs best, we know how to protect our customer data, and so we wanted to apply those principles to how we solve for travel rule compliance. Again, everything we've done, we've really approached through the lens of data security and privacy. It's really at the core of everything we've built that we'll talk about today. Including the counterparty identification mechanism that we built, which was one of the core challenges that we had to solve in order to figure out, is the transaction even travel rule eligible? And if so, where do we actually send the information and how do we send it? So here is a look at our global membership. So we launched Trust initially in 2022 with just around 20 members. In just a few short years, we have expanded to 144 members across 28 different countries. We're really proud of this network that we've built. We have many of the largest and most trusted players from all around the world, including Coinbase, Kraken, Fidelity, Robinhood, Revolut, Gemini, the list goes on and on. Really vast from all different jurisdictions. 28 jurisdictions here. Some of the largest include the EU, the UK, the United States. And then we're seeing lots of new jurisdictions come online as regulators in those countries start to implement travel rule requirements. We really feel that the success we've had with the industry's adoption of trust is because of this vast blood approach that we've taken and the emphasis on data privacy and data security. We've even attracted some of the largest banks around the world. As you can imagine, they have a very high standard when it comes to choosing solutions to partner with, and so we're very excited to share that our members also include entities like BNY, Bank of New York Mellon, Fidelity, PayPal, et cetera. So really, really great progress in just a few short years. And I'm sure, as you can imagine, all of us up here are competitors. And so if you can imagine sitting down with one of your competitors to negotiate a contract and build some sort of mutual technical solution, that is quite difficult as it is. But when you take lawyers and engineers from dozens of your competitors, hundreds, obviously it's a big challenge to get everyone on the same page. And I think I probably earned an honorary law degree from these negotiations. So. Trust has really, not only helped the industry solve a very complex challenge with travel rule, but it has built trust amongst the industry, pun intended. Awesome. So looking at the actual challenges that we had to solve when building trust to solve for travel rule, there were kind of three core issues or challenges that we were looking to solve. The first is counterparty identification. So I'm sure, as most know in this room, when it comes to crypto, customers are accustomed to telling you, here's the Bitcoin wallet address that I'm going to send to, please send my funds out. Well, there's no inherent mechanism in the blockchain networks to actually figure out who owns that particular address, whether that wallet belongs to another VASP or to a self-hosted wallet. There's no central source of truth, and while there are tools like blockchain analytics, they're not comprehensive, they're not 100% accurate, and they don't solve for things like brand new addresses. So we first had to figure out a way and a mechanism to build to securely identify wallet address ownership with 100% accuracy. The next was secure data sharing. So while the banks have had networks like SWIFT, Fedwire for decades that enable the actual transmission of this data, there was no infrastructure in crypto to actually send this information. So we had to envision and design this architecture in a way where we could, on a decentralized basis, share travel rule information so that we avoided creating a central honeypot of travel rule information that would be an attractive target for hackers. And then third, we have to figure out how do we actually do due diligence on our counterparties. In banking, there's the Wolfsburg DDQ, and then every bank has their own gold standard where they add, their own 150 questions. In crypto, everyone is subject to a very different licensing regime. They're subject to different regulatory requirements, and so we had to build out a way that we could do sufficient due diligence on our members from both a compliance as well as a data security and privacy standpoint to make sure that they're actually going to safeguard the travel rule data appropriately. Really critical to solve for these things because the last thing you want with travel rule is sending your customers' very sensitive PII data to the wrong counterparty. We definitely see that happening in the industry, and so really core to us to build in these very important security and privacy protections. So quick overview of trust and how we actually solve for these challenges. The first around counterparty identification. So we took the approach here of creating a secure way that VASPs could actually share their addresses, their crypto wallet addresses that they use with one another in a hashed format, and where they have to actually provide a digital signature to cryptographically prove those are their addresses. So we really wanted to take a kind of a crypto-first approach here and leverage the very powerful tools that cryptography offers to be able to actually definitively prove that if, hey, Kraken says this is their address, that it actually is their wallet address. The next was the secure data sharing. There's plenty of methods out there in the world to share data securely, and so we didn't want to reinvent the wheel here. We leverage encrypted peer-to-peer data sharing channels through API, where Coinbase can directly connect with Kraken or Gemini or PayPal, encrypt the data with that counterparty's public key, and then share that information with them directly. That allows us to, again, avoid centralizing data and sharing that data with third-party vendors that not only creates, again, an attractive target for hackers, but also can act as a single point of failure for the entire crypto industry. Third, one of the things that we most recently built for trust over the past year is what we call the Trust Hub email flow. This is acknowledging the fact that trust members and VASPs around the world, they need to have as wide of a net as possible to be able to send travel rule data, including with non-trust members. So for reasons like the fact that there are so many jurisdictions that still don't actually have travel rule requirements in place, or there are VASPs out there in the ecosystem that use alternative travel rule solutions, we built Trust Hub to enable our members to be able to still automatically share data with those counterparties that are not in trust in a way that still upholds the very important security and privacy controls that we built into Trust. And then finally, we built our legal and governance framework that both serves as a means to conduct due diligence on our members through the support of a third party that is neutral and independent, as well as a centralized legal contract that all members sign in order to join that governs how they use the solution. And then our cost model, which we've, again, taken a very different approach here, where we really try and make trust as affordable as possible, including we recently launched over the past year a model where we offer trust for free to smaller and startup VASPs, because at the end of the day here, we really want to help the entire industry achieve compliance with the travel rule, and I think we've built a great solution to do that. So that is a bit more about trust. We'll talk more about it on our upcoming panel around the challenges of travel rule. But we feel that with trust, we've been able to help the industry move from zero compliance a few years ago to really substantial compliance in just a few short years without compromising our data, our customers' data and their privacy. So thank you all.